Where are we going? We're going to the most remote inhabited part of New Zealand, Chatham Island, Rekohu. So where is Chatham Island and why would you want to go there? Rekohu, Chatham Island, is the largest island in a small isolated archipelago 450 miles east of Christchurch. It's officially part of New Zealand, so you don't have to do any immigration paperwork to go there. And it's the most remote inhabited part of New Zealand. They don't even really consider themselves part of New Zealand from what I read. For example, they don't say going to the mainland to refer to mainland New Zealand. They just say going to New Zealand. And why would you want to go there? Well, I'm pretty sure I just answered that question. 16:10, anchor's up, we're sailing. See you later, Bay of Islands. It's been great. I started in the Bay of Islands, not for any good reason, just that's where I was when it was time to go. The hardest part about a trip like this is clearing the social calendar sufficiently that I had no more obligations and could just leave. I installed one winch here, so I put these these clutches on the mast. That allowed me to move one of the winches down here, and I got these new Express cleats, so I've got enough here, enough over there, new cleats for the self-steering lines, and I also got this adjustment so I can pull on these lines here and steer the thing, so I can trim the sails and trim the direction from the hatch. That is going to be a great help when the wind gets over 20 knots. When it's like this, 10 knots or so, sailing's easy, but when it gets going, you got to put the raincoat on just to go on deck. You'll get splashed, especially since we're going to go south. We're going south. We're going to 44 degrees south. We're going to be in the roaring 40s. At 40 degrees south, it gets a lot colder. You notice it, and staying warm is always the priority, but it becomes more challenging. I've got a lot of warm clothes from spending the winter. Some that I haven't even worn. Last time I sailed down here, sailed to Wellington in February. And anyway, one time when I was trying to get into Wellington, I ended up wearing a big thick woolen jumper as trousers under my raincoat, under my rain leggings. That's in the middle of summer. I mean, that was a particularly bad weather day. That's what it can be like down there. It's the evening of day one. Made slow progress so far today, except for the fact of actually getting away. I've got to get around that point, and then I'll be able to veer off. We're just tacking back and forth, and this boat doesn't go really great to windward. It does make progress to windward. If we can get around that point by midnight, then at least I'll make 20 miles by daylight. Might be a bit tired, but I'm going to be at sea for a week anyway, so why not just start now? Okay, morning, second day, just on one tack now, hoping that we're not actually quite pointing high enough, but we're going much faster if we veer off a little bit, hoping that further south and later in the day, which is a bit more northerly, which is what the weather model says. Just navigated using this sextant, did a few calculations, and I'm 35 degrees south, 40 miles, 8 miles off the actual, according to the GPS, for first try, and I skipped several of the corrections as well. Maybe I'll see if I can get that more accurate. Been out 24 hours now. Nothing dramatic has happened. It would be smooth sailing, but it's to windward, so we're not going very fast. But we are going the right direction. Well, it's the second night, and we are become not in a very good spot. I've come to realise from doing bigger trips that actually this coastal stuff sucks because there's so many hazards around. You can't really rest, and that's exactly the situation now. Been much better to go around the outside of Great Barrier. The wind wasn't taking us that way. So here we are. That's day 3. The theme of light and unfavourable winds has been continuing. We've been tacking up the channel now, so it's before dawn. It's nearly 11. Oh, it's past 11, sorry. Nobody said this boat would be fast to windward. I've just never done sailed such a long distance all to windward. My starboard sheet winch wasn't working correctly, and I realised that one of the springs had a crack in it. So I replaced it with a piece of foam, and that seemed to work. Eventually the wind got a little bit more north in it, and I could veer off and escape the Colville Channel. Stowed my fresh apples in my clothing here, so that they're all packed and no apple is touching another apple. It's the right way to do it if you want your apples to last a long time. I saw one YouTube channel where they actually had potatoes hanging in a hammock. That's cute, but wrong, very wrong. Potatoes have to be in the dark. If you don't have potatoes in the dark, they'll turn green, and green's actually poisonous apparently. So root vegetables in the dark. Fruit release gas that makes them ripen. Ethylene, very common plant hormone. Yes, if not touching each other, they'll last much longer. Behind me is Great Mercury Island. Once I get past that and a few little rocks, it'll be clear sailing until East Cape. It's where it starts to get serious. Even with this big huge sail, we're still only going 4 and a bit knots. Monohull speeds. Day 3. That was day 3. Pretty slow going so far. Just perfect weather, light winds. From ahead, it'd be better. Slightly behind, it would be awesome, but anyway, they're slightly ahead. Now we've finally got a beam reach, just. It looks like tomorrow's going to be even lighter. Get across the whole Bay of Plenty. It's 140 miles, 6 knots average speed. I could do that in 24 hours. I doubt I'll go 6 knots though, based on the last couple of days. I've been downloading new weather models at every opportunity, starting to get sick of them. Like, they just keep on changing. You don't want to plan on the minutiae of the weather model. If you're worried about too much wind, be like, man, it could be windier. If you're worried about too light wind, you'd be like, well, it might be lighter. The direction might not quite be what they said, and that could be enough to make a big difference. Certainly was today. If it had been the beam reach I had hoped for, I would be way up ahead instead. Coffee at sunrise on day 4, with barely enough wind to hold the sails up. 4th day. We're going very slowly. 2 knots, but at least I'm not doing anything and we're kind of going in the right direction. Previously been in conditions like this and worked really hard to not go much faster. I think I'm just going to continue doing nothing. So the only halyard I don't have a downhaul on is the spinnaker halyard. It just came unclipped and fell to the deck. I'm not sure what happened. It's hanging open up there. Must have just snagged on the forestay or something. This will be the first time I've gone up the mast at sea. My favourite mast descending technique is to get a long rope 3 times the length of the mast and do a triple purchase and just pull myself up. I learned this technique from a YouTube channel called Witch Sailor or something like that, and I think it's a lot safer than the standard technique of having someone just winch you up the mast on a halyard. Aside from the fact that I don't have any crew to operate the winch, halyards are designed to come down quickly as well as go up. And my brother is actually a professional aerial rope access guy, and so I've seen the sort of safety equipment and approaches that they use, and winching some up with a halyard is not it's not safe in my opinion. Yeah, so I can confirm this is a lot harder than at anchor. It probably would have been easier if we're sailing along because the boat feels a bit more steady there. In this shot I make it to the spreaders and stop for a rest. and unfortunately the camera stopped as well because it got too hot in the sun or something like that. I like to take a selfie when I climbed the mast, but holding on was so difficult that I only dared get the camera out at the spreaders, although I did make it all the way to the top and retrieve the halyard. So that was day 4, mostly becalmed. Anyway, I had an enjoyable hot cocoa at sunset. Passing an orange buoy floating in the water, can see the Aldermans and White Island, but can't see the mainland. I 950 hours on day 5. That's East Cape up there. That's the point where it gets serious. So while flying this sail, which I bought as a asymmetric spinnaker, but it's not an asymmetric. It's a drifter. It's like triangular. I think it's actually meant to be like with a fully tight luff, and I think it might even be able to go to windward, but my mast isn't actually tall enough for it. I think it was off a 34-foot boat or something like that. But then I had a great idea. I'm going to attach a yard to it. It just needs to be maybe 2 meters long, and then I hoist the yard not from the top but from partially down it, and that will allow me to get another meter more hoist, which hopefully will be enough. That will give me a really big head sail. How about that? That fits perfect. That could probably use some more reinforcement at the top, maybe a pocket. Well, we're doing a close reach. I think a bowsprit might really help though, especially help to take off a bit of weather helm. And given that the sail is so big, I've made it bigger. It means the area has to come back basically because it's at the front. It's still tacked at the same place. So I actually need to move the tack forwards, and that needs bowsprit. Some large sea mammals welcomed me to the East Cape. And also I was now close enough to get cell phone signal again, which meant I could download the latest weather model. Latest weather model says go for it. First day just downwind, then it gets like 20 knots. I'll have 20 to 25 knots max for 2 days. That'll hit there, be a bit more straight south, but then that turns to southwest, and then I should be arriving just as that is easing, which is perfect, exactly how I want to arrive. I can handle 25 knots, but it'll be a bit tiresome having it for too long. New up-to-date forecast looks better than before. Totally a reasonable amount of 25 knot wind. And the other important thing is I don't want to arrive with really strong conditions because, I don't know what, the anchorages aren't really that great. Some of them are kind of exposed coasts, or, there's a lee shore with a little gap to get into. And I've never been there before, so I'd really rather do that cautiously, especially if there's big swell and all that kind of stuff. It's important to arrive in good conditions. If I arrive in the dark, I'll just heave to and wait for the morning. Yeah, it'd be nice to have 15 knots all the way, but this is New Zealand, and we're going south, and 25 knots in the right direction. Let's go for it. Enough for the spinnaker, and I put it up behind the drifter, and then I thought, they're both kind of going, why don't I just take the mainsail down? And so now I have a spinnaker and drifter, which puts the sail here at the front of the boat, so it should be much more balanced downwind. If you've ever read a sailing guide, cruising guide from the 1970s or before, you probably will have been aware of the phenomenon of the double head sails for downwind. Didn't notice that the wind had picked up because we're so just smooth downwind right now. Here is the easternmost point in mainland New Zealand, or as Chatham Islanders call it, New Zealand. I always feel a bit scared when you're in a sailboat and you can hear the surf crashing. Just a rumble. don't want to go there. Well, see you later, New Zealand. Rekohu, Chatham Island, another 420 miles that way. And then South America is another 4,000.